Hey guys, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn 101. This episode is going to talk about a topic that a lot of people have been asking me about, and I get these questions constantly, so I'm going to try to answer as many of them as I can. And that is class and job questions. What's the difference? Are bonus points class specific? Where do I unlock my job? All these standard questions that people need to know about all the classes and jobs. Keep in mind, this won't cover specifics such as places that I think you should put your bonus points in, although I will give sort of a general answer with that. There's a lot more theory crafting that has to go on behind that, and I simply have not done it, so I'm not going to pretend that I have. But let's start off with discussing classes. What are classes? How are they different from jobs? We'll get to how jobs are different from classes later. So classes are specialized at solo play. They can fill general roles in the party, but for the most part, they have tools on at their hands that let them focus on solo play. What do I mean by this? I actually am specifically referring to the Armory System. Classes have a wider array of abilities they can borrow from the Armory System. And for those of you who don't know what the Armory System is, it's a system that allows you to borrow abilities from other classes, unless those abilities specifically say that they're for that class only. So, like for example, you might not be able to borrow Cure 2 from Conjurer, but you could borrow Cure 1 at the lower levels, which really helps. You can borrow Protect, but you can't really borrow a Stoner Arrow maybe as a Disciple of War. So there are some specifics behind it. If we get into those, this video is going to be too long. Don't watch it. So I'm just giving you a general overview of what I mean. You can borrow abilities from Archer, Lancer, Dragoon, no, Archer, Lancer, Pugilist, Gladiator, Marauder, Conjurer, Thaumaturge, Arcanist. You can borrow from pretty much like half their abilities or something as a class. And that's really important for solo play because having Protect, Cure, Second Wind, Bloodbath, all these curing abilities, maybe some extra damage abilities in Hawkeye, Raging Strike, it really makes classes able to solo super effectively. Now, they can use up to 10 abilities, which is a lot. If you look at your action bars, by the time you're level 30, you already have quite a few abilities on there. Having an extra 5 probably at level 30 would be even more chaotic. And then if you were a level 50 class, just imagine the number of abilities you're going to have on your bars. It's going to be fun seeing how people work that around. But the big thing with these that people have been asking me about is bonus stats. You get 30 bonus stats at level 50 as a class. And people have been asking me two questions. Are they permanent? And are they class specific? And the answer to both, well, the answer to the permanent one is no. In 1.0, there was an item called Keeper of the Hymns that, when used, would reset your bonus points. I don't know if that item is still going to be used for that purpose, but I do have them on my inventory as a legacy character, so there's a good chance they might be. And even then, I don't know if those had a long cooldown or whatnot. I don't think they had any cooldown at all. So the answer is yes, you can reset your stats. And the answer to the other one is no. They don't go cross class. Each one is class specific. So the 30 points you earned on your Archer are not going to influence your Gladiator or your Marauder. Each one of those will get its own set of points that you can put into. And it's debatable where you want to put each one. I personally recommend putting them into what the class specializes most, but we don't know how attacks are going to work later game, or if you're going to need higher parrying chance maybe for certain fights. So there's really no way of saying for sure, but for the safe being on a beta, just put your points into the stat that makes you either do the most damage or reduces the most damage. Again, with tanks, that's going to be debatable whether you want health or mitigation, but that's what theory crafters are for, and I'm sure they are working hard at that. Now, with all that in mind, you can do all those things. Now comes the next biggest question. Why become a job? Every time I tell people how versatile a class is, they always ask me, why become a job then? You have all these extra abilities. Why do it? Well, jobs are, they fill a specific party role. They gain their specific job abilities, and they're able to more carefully keep a party together. A paladin is more closely related at tanking big monsters that do a lot of damage, and also protecting party members who might be unfortunate enough to get hit by the little ones. Marauders and I mean warriors, which is the job, are capable of tanking a lot of little monsters at a time. They have really good mobbing techniques, and they have decent damage mitigation and damage regeneration. White mages cure. They focus on big cures and keeping their party alive. The single target cures. Black mage does magic damage, and they are capable of locking targets down. Bards are supports that do a lot of extra damage. They keep the party going in prolonged fights. You get where I'm saying, Dragoon and Pugilist are both position based, and they each have their own, quirks and abilities that each make them unique, like jumps and you know, fists that do extra damage. Just there's a lot behind each job, but they fill a specific party role, and they do that role better than the classes do. They can't. The thing is, they can't use as many abilities from the Armory system for that reason. They can actually only use 5 at level 50. But not only that, this is something that I've mentioned in the past that people don't really know. And that is, I said you can only use abilities from certain classes. Now, I have gone and checked all of them in my screenshots. So let's just go right into that. Which classes of abilities can you use on each job? Now, obviously, you can use the class that you're derived from. Obviously, a white mage can use Conjurer, a black mage can use Thaumaturge. That's straightforward. So, but there's 2 other classes that each job can borrow from, and here's what they are. White mage can use Conjurer, Thaumaturge, or Arcanist abilities. Now, you're probably wondering how I know they can use Arcanist abilities. Well, every other job other than the 2 mage ones actually can already show that they borrow from 2. But White Mage and Black Mage each right now only currently show that they borrow from 1. So it's safe to assume that the second one that they will be able to borrow from is Arcanist, which is not on the list yet. So I hope that doesn't confuse anybody. That's how I derived it. Black Mage can also borrow from Archer and Arcanist. Little awkward. I don't know why they can borrow from Archer, but Black Mage kind of has all the tools it needs right on its own job. There's not really much else that can help them, except with Arcanist because they'll get some damage over time stuff. Monks can borrow from Gladiator and Lancer. This gives them a little bit more defense in terms of a damage dealer, while also giving them a little bit more of a boost in their damage, because Lancer has a lot of good damage boosting abilities. They also have Invigorate, which is huge, trust me. The fact that both Monk and Dragoon have access to Invigorate is huge. Dragoon can borrow from Marauder and Archer, as well as Lancer. Marauder also, it gives them not only... The thing is about Marauders that the abilities they borrow from Marauder actually give them a bit more survivability in terms of taking health from the enemy. While Archer gives them a huge boost in damage with, you know, increased accuracy, increased damage for, you know, increased crit chance and things like that. They actually get a lot from borrowing from Archer, so that's really cool. Bard can also borrow from Lancer or Conjurer. Now, Lancer, again, there's obviously abilities there that give you a damage boost. Conjurer lets you fill that supporty role that bards are good at a little bit better. So, you know, some people might not be thrilled to hear about that, but they do in fact borrow from Conjurer. There's nothing we can really do about it. Paladin borrows from Marauder and Conjurer. This gives them the ability to cure themselves and protect themselves, while also getting a few more abilities that not only drain health, but increase their damage done, and just overall survivability, you know? And Warrior can borrow from Gladiator and Pugilist. This lets Warrior gain some of the effective mobbing abilities of the Gladiator, such as Flash, while also gaining some of the hit-taking abilities, such as Convalescence, and just abilities that, you know, really help Warrior. I mean, I could go into this all day, how each ability helps, but that would take forever. And they also borrow from Pugilist. Pugilist has abilities like Second Wind, which is a cure, and they also have evasion boosting abilities, things that really work with the fact that warriors don't have shields. So it's actually all really good. And because Arcanist isn't in the game yet, we can just assume it'll be Conjurer and Thaumaturge that they borrow from. Again, not saying that for sure because they're not out, but considering both Conjurer and Thaumaturge, both White Mage and Black Mage borrow from Arcanist, I think it's only safe to assume that Summoners, actually, this is Summoner and Scholar, I don't know what I'm talking about. Summoner will probably be able to borrow from Thaumaturge and White Mage, and Scholar. This is what happens when you don't write things down, by the way, before you do it. And Scholar will probably be able to borrow from Conjurer and some other class. So that's most likely how it's gonna work, since one is a healer and one is a damage dealer. So we'll see how that works later on, though. So now that you know what abilities you can borrow from each class, not gonna get into the specifics of that. Now the other biggest question is, I just answered all those questions about jobs. What role they fill, what's the difference between them and a class as from the Armory system? What classes can they borrow abilities from? How do you unlock them? This is a big question because a lot of people don't know you can't currently unlock jobs in the beta if you didn't already have them. So that means only legacy characters from 1.0 that were transferred over that have jobs can actually access them. That's how I've been giving you guys job screenshots on top of some screenshots that have been donated to me. I have a text. And so I'm going to use the information from 1.0. All of the jobs were unlocked by starting a quest in their respective guild. So if you're a gladiator, go to the gladiator's guild at level 30, and you should find a job quest there. Monk was the same way. Warrior, Dragoon, they're all the same way. So I'm assuming Summoner and Scholar will be the same way. You'll just go to the Arcanist guild and there'll be 2 separate quests, I'm assuming. But you also needed a subclass level. Now this was so that when you got to that job point, you actually had some bonus abilities that really showed you they just wanted you to have the right things leveled to get some of the bonus abilities and get the most effectiveness out of your job change. So for example, with Paladin, you needed your Gladiator at 30 and your Conjurer at 15. This helped you so that you could get Protect and Cure. Monk needed Pugilist at 30 and Lancer at 15. Warrior needed Marauder at 30 and Gladiator at 15. Dragoon needed Lancer at 30 and Pugilist at 15. Bar needed Archer at 30 and Conjurer at 15. White Mage needed Conjurer at 30 and Gladiator at 15. And Black Mage needed Thaumaturge at 30 and Pugilist at 15. If that was too fast, it's in the description below. I know that that's a little bit confusing. Most of this will be in the description below, by the way, guys. So don't worry. If you're having trouble keeping up, it'll all be below. But there's no way of knowing if that's how it's going to be in 2.0. Those could change around completely. I'm assuming that they'll still pretty much have that as it is now. The reason being is that your subclasses are supposed to complement the abilities you borrow from. But for that reason, I think that White Mage and Black Mage are going to have their prereqs changed to both have Arcanist in them. Because they can't borrow from Gladiator and Pugilist anymore, so it wouldn't make sense for them to get that. It could also change to Thaumaturge 15 and Archer 15, since those are 2 classes that White Mage and Black Mage borrow from. But again, we won't know until jobs are unlockable when the game is released. Even then, I have to go back and just find the information for you guys because I have most of them unlocked, so I get to be the loser that doesn't actually know. But anyway, I hope this was informative. If you're looking for things such as where to unlock the classes and things like that, the Lodestone, the Final Fantasy XIV main page, actually has that kind of information. You can also see that when you actually make a new character, it'll show you where you start. And there's so much information that this covers between classes and jobs. So I really hope that this really brought it down. I have another video on unlocking classes. I also have videos on each individual class and each individual job. Some of them are made when I'm really tired, so they need to be redone, and some of them have bad audio, so they need to be redone. But until then, this is. I hope this really helps people with all the questions that they had. So, because you guys have been supporting me so much, I figure I'll support you back and answer one of the most common questions that I've gotten. If you thought this was useful, please like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Especially if you have a friend who was going to ask me a similar question, so that way I don't have to share it with them first. Also, check out my Facebook at www. Technical difficulties. Check out my Facebook at www.facebook.com/MrHappy1227. You can go there. You can ask me questions. You can just talk to me. You can shoot my brain a little bit. See what I think about certain things. You can talk to other people. There's some nice people. Some people post links to things such as beta keys and whatnot. I've seen a few of those pop up on my wall now, and it's just an overall nice community. So stop by there. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. And next episode, I can promise, was going to be today's episode, is going to be on guild hests. So stay tuned, guys. Hope you had a good time.